Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr., and welcome to another classic movie review. This is my review of a great film from 1951, a classic black and white thriller from the master of suspense director Alfred Hitchcock. The movie is Strangers on a Train. This film stars Farley, Granger, and Robert Walker. I'm not that familiar with the two of these actors' works, but I have seen Farley Granger in another Alfred Hitchcock classic, 1948's Rope. Happens to be one of my favorite films. And for anyone interested, I do have a review of that movie on this channel. It's a great movie. You should check it out. But yeah, so Strangers on a Train is the story of two men that meet at the beginning of this film on a train. So you got Farley Granger just sitting in his seat minding his own business when all of a sudden his foot is tapped by the gentleman sitting next to him, being the character of Bruno Antony. And that little tap on the foot, seemingly by accident, sparks up a conversation that starts out pretty, civil at first, and just seems like two guys just chit-chatting, getting to know each other. But the conversation eventually takes a turn. Bruno is well aware of Guy's engagement to the uh, senator's daughter, or a senator. And so that's in the papers, and they talk about that for a little bit. He asks Guy about Guy's ex-wife, and starts to get a little uncomfortable for Guy. And then it gets really uncomfortable when, or awkward, I should say. But Guy just pretty much humors Bruno when Bruno brings up the subject of a hypothetical perfect murder. What would be the perfect murder, and how would you execute that? Bruno proposes that the one thing that would trip anybody in a murder case would be the motive and that connection to the victim. So he proposes that Guy kill Bruno's father and Bruno kill Guy's ex-wife. And of course, Guy just kind of laughs this off and treats this whole thing like a big, dark, twisted joke. A scene later, you have Guy on the phone with his ex-wife, where you really learn how he really feels about his ex-wife. And he's trying to get this divorce finalized. She tells Guy, I'm not going anywhere, and you're going to have to rethink your whole engagement. Not only that, she tells the Guy that she's pregnant and she wants him to be the father of the baby. And so he knows it's not his. She knows it's not his. And so that conversation doesn't go very well. They hang up, and Guy has every intention of going through with his engagement regardless, because he's in love, of course. And his new fiance is a very nice woman. And so a couple scenes later, the ex-wife is at a carnival, and she's on a date with not one guy, but two. The whole time, the Bruno guy is stalking her. And after a while, she realizes that this guy is following her. And oddly enough, she doesn't have any kind of reaction to it. It seems like she's sort of inviting this guy by not saying anything, because different attractions, no matter where they are, he's there. If she's on the roller coaster, he's on the roller coaster. If she goes through the tunnel of love, he's on the boat behind her. There's a really cool scene in that tunnel of love too. That's a nice little thrill for viewers. But she ends up running around playing a little chase game with her two young dates, and she gets away from them for a minute when all of a sudden Bruno comes out of nowhere, because he's been tailing her the whole time, and that's when he seizes his moment. And there's a shot of him strangling her uh, because her glasses that she's wearing, they fall to the floor when he gets his hands on her. And so there's a shot right through the lens of the glasses. It's a POV from the ground up, and it's such a great shot. It's very innovative, it's very creative, and only Hitchcock could have come up with this idea. When you watch this movie, that shot just stays in your mind for a while because of how beautiful it is. Just perfect composure. And yeah, it's one of those shots in films where you understand this is why movies are made, for shots like this. So of course, Guy has no intention of going through with the plan of killing Bruno's father. And of course, Bruno keeps stalking Guy and follows him to different social functions. Sometimes Bruno is just seen from a distance as Guy realizes that he's watching him from time to time. And it gets pretty creepy in some of those scenes just because of the way they're photographed. And of course, Hitchcock knows how to frame a shot beautifully just to get that message across of somebody watching and waiting. Another great scene that I really like is a scene where they're at a party and Guy is there, his fiance is there, some friends and family, and Bruno shows up, of course, and he sparks up a conversation with someone in the room, a couple of women, and it becomes that same conversation of the perfect murder and how would you pull it off? You're gonna use a gun, you're gonna use a knife, and how would you do it? And so the two ladies that he's talking to sort of play along, much like Guy was at the beginning of the film. And Bruno tries to demonstrate how to choke somebody. And he puts his hands on this woman's neck. And at first, it just seems like he's gonna pretend. Then, as he's looking towards a certain character, and this character is wearing glasses, much like Guy's ex-wife at the beginning of the film, it triggers something in his mind, and all of a sudden he goes into flashback mode basically, and he starts to squeeze and squeeze for real. And the poor woman starts to make these noises, and she's obviously struggling to breathe. And it's a pretty disturbing little moment. So after all the cat and mouse games between our two main characters, Guy and Bruno end up at the same carnival at the end of the film where Bruno had murdered Guy's ex-wife. And so the whole thing ends on a big fight inside of a carousel. I gotta say, the first time I ever heard about this movie was back in the day watching one of my favorite 80s comedies, Throw Mama from the Train, because that movie is entirely in homage to Strangers on a Train. They even have a scene where there's a main character watching Strangers on a Train at the movies. And you can tell Danny DeVito, who directed that film, you could tell that he's a big, big Hitchcock fan, and it definitely shows when you watch that movie. It's a hilarious movie. I think eventually um, I will talk about that movie too, just because it's one of my favorite 1980s comedies. Yeah, Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito are hilarious in that one. So, yeah, that's another one for later on down the road. But thank you very much for watching this film review. And look out for Strangers on a Train on streaming because I know that I've seen it before on HBO Max. Hopefully, they keep their Turner Classic Movies. 'Cause they have so many classic movies in that section of HBO Max. So hopefully it's still there. And if not, then, there's always the alternative choice of physical media, which is DVD and Blu-ray. This is my copy of a DVD of Strangers on a Train. And this is, like I said, a great Hitchcock movie, and it's a 4-star thriller. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I highly appreciate you. If you're into this kind of thing, please hit that bell for notifications on more classic movie reviews coming your way. Please share, comment, subscribe, and like all that good stuff. And look out for the next one. Until next time, take care of each other and God bless.